In today's video, I'm going to show you the $5 principle that can cool your room forever and how you can correctly set it. But honestly, this is something I wish someone had shown me 2 summers ago, because the first time I tried to solve this problem, I failed badly. Welcome back to the Earth Law Secret and Vault. Subscribe and listen keenly to learn this simple, amazing setup. It was the kind of heat that you think the ozone layer has totally been depleted. You feel it the moment you wake up, before you open your eyes, before you move. The ceiling is right there, and the air beneath it just sits, heavy, still, punishing. I had tried everything reasonable. A fan pointed at the window, another facing inward. I'd read somewhere that cross-ventilation was the answer. So I opened every door, every window, set up the fans at opposite ends of the room. The air moved. The room was still hot. Then I tried the bowl trick, a bowl of ice water in front of the fan. You've probably seen this one. It feels smart. It looks scientific. You position it just right and wait for that cold wave to hit you. It never does. Not really. The relief lasts about 40 seconds. Then the ice melts. Then you're back to where you started, except now there's a puddle on the floor and the room smells faintly of wet disappointment. I spent 3 nights like that. 3 nights of waking up at 2 a.m. with the sheets stuck to me, rotating the fan toward my face, bargaining with the heat as it owed me something it didn't. And somewhere in those 3 nights, I accepted a belief I didn't know I was accepting. Cooling a room properly requires electricity. It requires a machine. It requires money I don't have right now. That belief felt like logic. It wasn't. It was surrender dressed up as common sense. The shift came from somewhere I didn't expect. I was watching a short clip, grainy footage, the kind that looks like it was filmed in the 90s, of a man in a rural setting placing 2 clay pots together, one inside the other. He was packing something between them. Sand, maybe. Then pour water into the gap. No wires, no motor, no electricity. He covered the top with a damp cloth and walked away. And the woman beside him, older, calm, she touched the inside of the smaller pot a few minutes later and smiled. That was it. No explanation, no dramatic reveal. I remember thinking, that can't actually work. It looked too old, too basic, like something people did before they knew better. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Because she smiled like someone who had never been surprised by it. Like it was simply obvious. And that feeling, that quiet confidence, bothered me more than the heat did. What did she know that I didn't? I found out the next morning. 2 clay pots. 1 small, 1 large enough for the smaller to sit inside it comfortably. The gap between them is about 1 inch on all sides. Cost at the market, under $5 total. I filled that gap with dry sand, packing it evenly around the inner pot. Not tight, just enough to hold. Then I poured water slowly into the sand, not flooding it, just saturating it. The sand darkened as it absorbed. I covered the top with a damp cloth and set it in the corner of the room. Then I sat down and waited. Here is the physics. And it is simple enough that it almost feels like cheating. Water in the sand layer evaporates outward through the porous clay walls of the outer pot. Evaporation is not passive. It is an active process. It pulls energy from its surroundings to convert liquid into vapor. That energy? It is hot. The heat from the air around the pot, the heat from the room. As the water evaporates, it carries that heat away with it. The inner chamber cools, not because cold was added, because heat was removed. There is a difference, a significant one. 20 minutes later, I pressed my palm against the inner pot. It was cool to the touch. Not refrigerator cold. Not shocking, but genuinely unmistakably cool, the way shaded stone feels on a hot afternoon. The kind of cool that your body recognizes before your brain does. I held my hand there longer than I needed to. I thought about those 3 nights. The ice bowl. The cross-ventilation. The fan pointed at my face at 2 a.m. Every single approach I had tried was built on the same assumption: add something, add ice, add airflow, add another fan. I was fighting the heat by throwing things at it. And heat is patient. Heat doesn't tire. Heat just absorbs whatever you throw and keeps sitting there. This method did something different. It didn't fight. It drew the heat out slowly, quietly, consistently, and released it into the atmosphere, working with nature instead of against it. And in that shift from force to cooperation, something in me settled. The frustration I had been carrying loosened, not because the room was dramatically transformed, but because I had stopped trying to overpower a problem that never needed to be overpowered. Here is the lesson I wasn't expecting. This clay pot method doesn't eliminate heat, it removes what allows heat to stay. And I've been sitting with that idea ever since because it applies to more than just temperature. Some problems persist not because we lack the solution, but because we keep the conditions that feed them. We add more effort to situations that need less interference. We pour energy into fighting symptoms while the cause stays untouched, comfortable, undisturbed, right where we left it. The pot doesn't cool by adding cold. It cools by allowing heat to leave. Sometimes the answer is subtraction. Not more tools, not more force. Just remove what doesn't belong and let what remains do what it was always capable of doing. The room isn't Arctic. I want to be honest about that. On a very hot afternoon, this method brings the immediate area around the pot down by several degrees, enough to make a corner of the room livable, enough to sleep, enough to breathe without it feeling like effort. You refill the water once a day. You spend nothing on electricity. And the pot asks nothing from you except that you understand why it works. That understanding cost me 3 sleepless nights to find. It doesn't have to cost you anything at all.